What's going on? So today is day 7 of daily vlogging, and I'm just gonna say it, I'm so glad today's my last day of doing it. I'm glad I didn't decide to go do it for a month or whatever. By the way, you guys like my arm? I got my cast removed a few days ago. That's how much I can move my arm right now. Hello! But I'm in the process of stretching it out every single day, trying to get my range of motion to be a little bit more, and hopefully soon enough I can just karate chop with both arms. Oh my god, I could actually touch my face. This is great. Yesterday I couldn't. But look, I could touch my nose. This is great news, guys. Anyways, as most of you already know, I'm not a complete noob to vlogging. I've done it before, especially if I have something interesting going on, if I'm traveling. But daily vlogging is on a whole nother level. And after watching vlogs by, people like Casey Neistat, I was like, I wonder if I were to just start filming and documenting my daily life. Is my life interesting enough to make a daily vlog that people would watch? I quickly realized the answer is no. My life is boring as hell compared to most vloggers, but I definitely learned a whole lot by just trying to daily vlog for a week. I think one of the things that's very valuable to identify early on is what kind of content is interesting to you and yourself, and what kind of content is interesting to your audience. So the first few days, I was literally just filming everything, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what's going to make it in the vlog? I don't know, but I'm just gonna film everything. And there was a whole bunch of moments where I'm like, oh, this is a great moment that I think is interesting. And I looked at some of the other footage and said, oh, this would actually be interesting for my audience to see. Oh, dude, you're in trouble now. All right, well, this is a nice little studio. I think we can make this work. Like, I did one shoot, and to me, it was a very, very simple, basic shoot in front of a green screen. I never really thought about trying to vlog that shoot because it wasn't that unique or interesting enough. But now looking back on it, maybe people are interested to see that kind of content. See, these pre-lit studios are awesome because we just show up, and all I'm gonna do is probably just adjust a few of these switches. Having fun there?
Yeah.
This is what set life is actually like. You
Shoot
a little bit and then you wait. You shoot a little bit and you wait.
But they do have sandwiches. So
that is true.
That's a plus.
I am not dumb enough to stand in front of this green screen and give you guys access to that footage, but Sam is. Oh no, you're in so much trouble. And the day before that, we had to go to the wardrobe shop to pick up costumes, and to us, it was just another chore that we had to do. And then when I got there, I realized there's not that many people that actually have seen the inside of a costume shop, so this might be kind of interesting to film. We just spent $1,900 at a costume shop to rent like 5 different costumes and like 2 prop guns. That's crazy if you think about it. $1,900 to rent it.
Each segment will be about 10 seconds long times 5, so about 50 seconds worth of content, $1,900 in costume.
That's super expensive because you could probably buy a lot of this stuff for the price they charge for the rental almost. But the thing is, it's nice because we just show up to one building and they literally have everything just right then and there. They just literally brought out all the stuff and they were like, this is how you put on the suit. Make sure you tuck in your pants into your boot just like this. And then also here's how the props should be laid out. Make sure nothing's dangling. So they're very much on top of that. So that's pretty cool. That probably makes it worth it for a producer like you to just show up, and you don't have to do the legwork on figuring out what kind of costumes. They go, okay, this is your scene. We're gonna give you the appropriate props and costumes to execute that scene. One of the first things you should figure out is, who are you making these vlogs for? Are you gonna make them for yourself to have some of these videos to show your kids and grandkids? This is what life was like before everybody was a cyborg. So halfway through filming my vlogs, I decided, oh, I'm gonna actually just make these vlogs for myself. I'm not gonna put it out there publicly. Everything just kind of shifted a little bit, and I actually enjoyed it a whole lot more. I wasn't necessarily trying to come up with things that are interesting just for the sake of the vlog. I just started documenting daily things, and it was awesome. So if you're thinking about daily vlogging, I would suggest starting off by just making them for yourself to at least get started. I felt that I I was able to be a little bit more raw, and everything felt a lot more genuine because I felt like I was just being myself, opposed to trying to speak to a bunch of people and always wondering, what are they gonna think if I did this? What should I show? What should I not show? It was just more like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how I feel. This is what I'm doing. This part of my life is going great. This part of my life sucks. For example, one of the days the water heater went out, and also I had my cast on, so I had to take a cold bath. And these are the type of things that I'm glad I was daily vlogging for that period of time, because that's a memory that I probably would completely forget about a few months out from now. And it was funny, and I'm glad I got to capture that moment on camera. But if your goal is to have internet fame and all that success that you see on some channels, you would definitely have to make all the vlogs very thoughtful, and you have to constantly keep it fresh and giving people a new perspective on something. And all that is going to take a lot of mental effort to do. And if your life isn't already interesting, you're gonna have to make it interesting by going out of your way to do things that will make good content. One thing I did do before I even started YouTube was this app called 1 Second Every Day, and I'm not associated with them in any way, but basically this app would make a sequence and it would just pull 1 second out of every day. Then after a year, you'll have 365 seconds of footage, 1 second from every single day. And I loved that app. I was just doing it purely for myself, and I did that for years, and it's so much fun looking back on that just to see what was going on, because now everything's just like a big blur. Another thing that I think is also important is to try to show, not tell, which is a very popular phrase we hear about in the film industry. Is you don't want to tell a whole bunch of information. You're on video, you can show a lot and people can interpret it and figure things out for themselves, which makes sense, right? But naturally, when I first started on day one, I was like, okay, so today we're gonna go and do this, and then afterwards we're gonna go do that. And I was just talking all these things through, and then when I would go to the places to show it, I would forget to film it. So I was literally just telling, not showing. But you should try to do the opposite. If you're gonna go out and do something, try to show that thing happening, opposed to saying, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that next, blah blah blah. Another thing I found very useful is to edit as soon as possible. The days I would go out and just film a whole bunch of footage, come back and drop it on my computer, I was like, oh man, I have all this footage. But then the days where I would go out and film for a little bit, then edit that bit, then film a little bit more and edit that bit, those were very, very smooth. I think partially it was because it was so fresh. I literally recorded it just an hour ago, so I remember every little detail and I know what I need to pick out of the shots. But even just putting it off for a few hours or till that evening, it's surprising how much you forget what you recorded. So then you have to start watching through the footage and forgetting about which one's the good take and which one's the bad take. In the whole editing process, you just have to remember that you're gonna be doing this every single day. So you're not gonna have a break. Every little task that you do in editing, you want to streamline that as much as possible. You just don't have the time to invest all this time into every little step anymore. Sometimes you're like, oh, the color grade is close enough, let me just run with it. Having a good solid music library helps, and having your favorites marked down so you could just bloop bloop bloop. I use Epidemic Sounds and MusicBed. Those are the two I've been using, and they're both really great. What I like about Epidemic is they have a huge selection, and a majority of my music is under the category of laid back hip hop. If I select those two, then most of my songs are from there, especially background music. The song that's playing in the background right now, see, this song is from Epidemic. It's nice, chill, laid back background music. And then MusicBed is one that I recently started trying out, and they actually have some really cool music, something that I would actually listen to if it was playing on the radio. So in the last couple videos, whenever there was like an epic sequence, I would always go to them for that music. If you're looking for a music service, I would say go try them both out and see which one sticks. Links down in the description for a free trial for both of them. One thing I personally find to be very important, at least for my vlogs, is to try to keep things as real as possible. Just keep it raw and keeping it real. I'm not gonna try to fluff up my life to make it look wonderful in every way, because that's nobody's life is like that. So I definitely made it an effort to try to film when I wanted to, but also when I didn't really want attitude. This always sucks when this happens. We went out to dinner and we came back and she's got all this dirt on her face. She's got this little patch of blood. We came back home one day and looked like she had gotten bitten by one of the other dogs and kind of beat up because her face was completely covered in dirt. And that's definitely unusual for one of our dogs to attack another, but it has happened before. And whenever it does, it sucks. So I filmed that process.
But she always looks like she did something.
She always looks guilty, no matter what. She always looks like, sorry. Eventually, I got on FaceTime with Carrie and she was like, oh, that's where her wart was. She probably stuck her nose under the fence and probably scraped off the wart and got her face all dirty. She's probably fine. And after thinking about it more, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. So that ended up being a funny story. But, you know, those types of things that are real life issues, I think is good to document.
I'm sorry I accused you, Peter. She was my prime sus. I'm like, I knew it was.
Okay, Carrie just stopped by to say hi.
Do you know what it is?
It was a gummy. It's like a... Oh, is it a gusher?
Yeah.
That is so good. I haven't had these in so long.
I know, right?
Great, now I have a bunch of stuff in my teeth now. I can't get it out. I think another thing that I found to be useful is to try to figure out what your video is going to be about, whether it's the theme or idea the day before. Because the tough part for me the first few days was that I just literally filmed everything and I tried to assemble a vlog in editing, which was a pain. But if I were to wake up and say, oh, today will be a video about the costume shop and let's try to get as much interesting content we can about that costume shop, and that'll be the video. And one of the days I started filming on this DJI Osmo Action, I could have just made that into an entire video for that day. But instead I kind of played with this camera for a little bit, then I went to the costume shop for a little bit, then I did this and that. It just turned into a big mishmash. There was no real structure or a thing that the video was about. It was just blah cluster of events that happened that doesn't really tell a story or is not really useful to the audience. So that was definitely a big mistake I made. It definitely helps to have your concept in mind as early as possible so that you can develop your vlog around that idea or concept as much as possible. Finally, I think one of the best parts about daily vlogging is that you learn a whole lot about yourself, because it's one thing to slightly think something in your head, but then when you make the decision to talk about it publicly to potentially thousands, millions of people, then you really have to believe in what you're saying. Because usually I'll find myself saying something and then I'll go back in my head and be like, are you sure you want to say this? You definitely believe in what you're saying, right? Yeah, positive? Okay, we'll go and say it. So things that you believe in strongly will come out on your vlogs. And that's another thing with daily vlogging, is that you're filming yourself every single day. So you can't really pretend to be someone you're not. At some point or another, your true self will come out on camera and you can't hide that. But if this was for Instagram, I would totally be like, right now, take a photo.
We'd have candles and bubbles.
Yeah, as soon as you get the shot, I'll just be like, it's so cold. Let's close this video out by reading a few comments from my last video where I watch and show you guys some films I made 19 years ago. Top comment was from Doors Stream. Your After Effects in 2003 is better than mine in 2019. Actually, my skills back in 2003 are probably better than my skills now, because I loved After Effects back then, but now I'm lazy. I just don't have the patience anymore. It is super fun though. Every time I open it up, it's like, oh man, you could do all this and do all that, but it's just, it takes a lot of time and patience. Cody Leon says, had After Effects, but yet still lit real fires. Love it. There's nothing more fun than having practical effects and blowing stuff up. Wego says, curious, how did you convince your friends to be set on fire? It honestly wasn't very difficult. I think I just had the right friends. I was like, can I light you on fire? And they're like, no way, are you crazy? Come on, please. And they'll be like, okay, fine, let's do it. Sean C says, potato jet field trip in Mexico. Yes, please. Ooh, to fill everyone in on that, I am going to Mexico near Cancun. We're gonna be staying in Playa del Carmen, I believe, in August. So if there are still tickets, I will leave a link in the description if you want to join us on this trip. But if you go down in the description and you don't see any links, that means the tickets have sold out. So maybe you could join us on the next one. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. See you guys later.